Well, very exciting to be here in San Francisco. I'm heavily jet lagged. I haven't slept for quite some hours from Amsterdam. So it's, yeah, I hope my message will come over clear. So I will be talking about why MLOps and LLMOps is booming and how you can catch up. And it will be about corporate setting, how to do that in corporate setting. So I'm a lead machine learning engineer at Ahold Delhaize. It's one of the largest retailers in the world with a lot of brands, 19 brands in Europe and in the United States. And I'm leading MLOps transformation there across all the brands. I have approximately 10 years experience in data analytics domain. I've been doing all kind of jobs starting from data analytics to data science and machine learning engineering, and 7 years my focus was on MLOps specifically. So I've done data analytics, data science, and machine learning engineering in large corporate organizations, so I know a lot about politics, not just about data science and machine learning engineering. We also will be talking at Data and AI Summit on Wednesday. We will be talking about API deployment with model endpoints, with serverless model endpoints from Databricks, and how we applied that. We have not done that yet with LLMs, but we are planning to do so in coming couple of months. So as was mentioned in the introduction, we do have a blog. It's called Marvelous MLOps. So it comes because we are both, me and my colleague Bashak are both fans of Marvel and MLOps. So we asked ChatGPT to come up with a name, and it told us Marvelous MLOps, so that's how it got started. We are really Marvel fans, so I'm wearing Infinity Stone ring, and also Bashak. So are there many Marvel fans in the room? Yeah? Okay, well. And MLOps, obviously, everyone, right? So that's cool. So if you're interested to follow us and read about our journey, please scan the code. So what the talk is going to be about, the story of MLOps and LLMOps, MLOps adoption challenges and what you can do now to overcome them, and LLMOps adoption, possible use cases, the challenges that are out there, and how you can overcome some of them in the corporate setting. So we're not talking about startups or anything. It's really corporate setting, which is very different. So what does Google Trends tell us? It is actually funny. I was looking at LLM trends and data science trends, and it seems like LLM was more popular than data science for quite some time. Well, LLM also stands for mastering laws, apparently. Well, it is funny. People are more interested in law nowadays than they were before. Well, of course, it's about LLMs that got really popular after December 2022. Everyone started talking about them, including my parents, which know nothing about AI. So it is quite funny. And you see that MLOps is also really progressing. A number of searches is really growing. And you see some dips in this graph. And if you look what dips those are, it is actually Christmas period. I don't understand why people don't care about MLOps around Christmas, maybe production freeze. I don't know, but it is funny. But LLMOps is not a term yet. So it still has to be maybe adopted more. So I guess LLM operations are seen more like part of MLOps yet still. So what MLOps challenges do we have in large corporate organizations? It's hard to get buy-in from management to start with MLOps. If you just tell management, I want to build a MLOps platform, they will tell you, well, yeah, what's the business value? How can you do that? You need money, so it's really complicated, right? Scattered teams and not clear responsibilities across the teams, and a change management is required. If you look at the slide back, data science started getting popular around 2016, so that's when it got more popular than LLM. And at that moment, big corporate organizations started doing data science. So that also happened to me. I started working in 2014 as a data analyst, and data science wasn't a thing back then, at least not in Europe. Maybe in the US it was already a thing. So data science jobs started appearing around 2015, 2016. But then data scientists started building some models, but there was no value coming out of it. Why? Because you have to integrate it with all the systems, and data scientists didn't have the knowledge to do so. And DevOps engineers or software engineers or other folks that did have the knowledge didn't know anything about machine learning. So that's why the boom of MLOps happened a couple of years later. So it is essential to do MLOps to actually start seeing the value from the data science. But to do this MLOps, indeed, change management is required. So what we see a lot is that, well, that's what we have seen at Ahold Delhaize when I started working there a couple of years ago, that there was one big data science team within one of the brands. They were doing some use cases like demand forecast, cross-sell maybe on the website, personalized offers. And it was a separate team. There was also a team of DevOps engineers. There was a platform team. They were not really talking to each other. And if they wanted to get something done, the data scientists, they would literally have to send over an email with a zip file and all that crazy stuff. And they will send back error messages. And it will go over and over. So there is a lot of pain in this. Pain from both sides. So what can you do if you're in such a situation? So find people that feel pain. So if there is no pain, there is no need for cure, right? But if people feel pain, you can address that pain and make them your ally. That's what you can start doing. You can start with one project that already has buy-in from the management and deploy it in a reusable way so that you can apply whatever you used for every next project. Then you need to educate data scientists, DevOps engineers, platform teams on MLOps and why it is important to follow best MLOps practices. And speak loudly about every success you make. So for example, if you deployed one project in a reusable way, every next project will be done in a shorter amount of time. So example that I can give based on our experience within Ahold Delhaize, before it would take 9 months to deploy a cross-sell model on a website. Now it takes 1 month. The model brings huge values, like 100,000 euro per week. So 8 months difference times that amount per week, it will be like 3 million euro. And then you can tell everyone about it. Look, we just earned 3 million euro by doing this. And the more projects you do, the bigger the number becomes. So it's easier to sell within your organization. I think selling is really underestimated skill of machine learning engineers, data scientists, to actually promote the work that they do. And in the end, you need to build a MLOps platform that scales and supports multiple use cases. So MLOps becomes part of enablement. So then there are no scattered teams. There is a MLOps team that fully supports all the projects, and they are in constant communication with the platform team. So in our situation, for example, we convinced the DevOps and platform team that we know what we are doing. We got permissions to deploy ourselves, and we built a whole framework that allows data scientists to deploy themselves within 5 minutes if they wanted to. So it takes organizational change. It takes talking to people. Or politics that people don't usually like, but it's inevitable. So simplified MLOps landscape can look in the following way. So you basically need some basic steps here. You need version control, you need CI/CD, you need orchestration, model registry, container registry, compute, serving, monitoring, feature stores. And there are a lot of tools here. So you probably all have seen this MED landscape. There are many, many tools. I don't think you need all those tools. You just need to combine whatever you have in a smart way. So I think that's how that works in a corporate setting for sure. So an LLMOps now. Does MLOps for LLMs require a new term? Well, LLMs are more complex than a traditional model. So because it requires more interaction with the business teams. You need more human involvement, the constant feedback loop. You need people to annotate things. It is also possible for more standard machine learning, like NLP tasks. But companies that were not doing that before on that scale, they need to start that conversation with the business. And you need to build something to do this feedback loop. So it may require an extra additional thing in your MLOps setup to make LLMOps possible. And I think when we're talking about MLOps, we are talking about more platform thing that scales. When we are talking about LLMOps, we are just talking usually about deploying just one model for now, because it's new. So we're not talking about doing it on scale yet, at least. But it will come. You see, everything will come in a couple of years, probably based on the search terms in Google. So what high-value use cases are out there at the moment that we see, at least from the corporate world? So customer support. I worked in a telecom company before. Customer support was always a big thing. We are already doing NLP for classification of chats and calls in 2016. And we already had this collaboration with the business there, so they actually see the value of all of it. And it's easier, I think, to start with these kind of use cases for those companies. For banks, the same, insurance. Retail, maybe some of the retail, it would also work. Shopping assistant for retailers. It's an amazing opportunity for cross-selling. Cross-selling has huge value for retailers. So this gives an extra opportunity and actually makes kind of gamifications, I think, for the customers. So for clothes, furniture, home appliances. And for food retailers, recipes is a big thing. So, for example, people want to make pasta, bolognese for dinner, and they ask ChatGPT for recipe for this. And well, not ChatGPT, but this internal shopping assistant, recipe assistant, and it will come up with products that you can add to the cart directly. So it's an amazing opportunity for cross-sell. So some of the examples that I did using ChatGPT. So for IKEA furniture, so I asked ChatGPT, I have kids and cats and want to buy a sofa with removable cover. It must be medium soft because I have some back pain. Can you recommend different sofas from IKEA? Rank them and motivate in max 20 words. So it comes up with some IKEA products. I Googled some of them, it looks okay. So something like that would work for a furniture retailer, right? Another example is recommending clothes. So I'm a female going to a friend's wedding in Sicily and want to wear a petite size dress. Can you recommend some items to wear from Zalando.com? It's like in Europe, it's a big clothes retailer, and accessories and shoes to go with it. And it will actually come up with some suggestions. Well, because ChatGPT is outdated, those are not sold anymore. But I can imagine that for Zalando, they are actually doing that, by the way. They announced in April, I think, that they are actually going to do something like that. That's pretty amazing. There is huge value in it. But it's not always easy to reach. You need to get buy-in from the business again. It requires time and budget for fine-tuning because you cannot just use open AI for this or anything from Azure. You need human annotation and feedback, so more close interaction with business teams. And it takes time and it takes money. Available models don't work well for small languages. So because Ahold Delhaize works for 19 different brands, we have brands in Europe and in countries like Greece, Romania, Serbia, Netherlands, Belgium. So there are languages that are not English. So they are very challenging. And then you need to do something very custom to make it work. And it costs more money. So what you can do already, you need to get buy-in from the management. So you can start with low-hanging fruit examples, like internal knowledge base. That's something that we are going to do. Well, everyone knows Confluence. Confluence is horrible. You cannot find anything on Confluence. So scraping the whole Confluence, scraping the whole GitHub for README files, and scraping SharePoint all together, and taking Dolly and fine-tuning Dolly to answer some specific questions regarding your internal knowledge base, that's something that we are going to work on, because that's something that increases productivity. It doesn't have direct business value, but it's easy to implement. It's in English as well. But it will show the business, look, we are capable of doing that. This works amazing. Hopefully they're all very happy about it. And it's a hype, right? So we can talk about it out loud everywhere. And then hopefully we get buy-in to do more exciting things like recipes in Dutch. So yeah, that's a plan. Thank you.
Perfect. So we have 2 minutes for one question. Someone wants to raise their hand if they have a question? Okay.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. So what model are you planning to use for your internal documentation LLMs? And how are you actually going to train that model with your data?
For the recipes, we don't know yet. Well, I'm not really a data scientist, I'm a machine learning engineer, so I'm not really busy with training the models. But we currently already have this knowledge-based thing that some of our data scientists train, so we are going to deploy that. For recipes, I think it's quite complicated, because you also need to have, we already have a recipe base, so you need to fit that context somehow. So we need to build this system that maybe like some graph database, you need to go in between and then feedback to extend the query. Something like that, probably. And also with recipes, it's hard, because ChatGPT can come up with some recipe with 200 grams salt in it, and it has no notion of taste.
Yep.
So you need to give some ratings maybe to the recipes, and maybe come up, and it's also very biased, because the ratings you have, they're all very positive, like at least 3. Well, they have no 0, it should be really bad. So you can artificially create these bad recipes with a lot of salt or something, and maybe use that as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Have a couple more minutes. Here we go.
What strategies do you employ to identify use cases, like business use cases? How do you connect with stakeholders to find those pain points?
Well, our scope is not data science, machine learning engineering, and usually we have business people that come up to us, to the data science teams, to deploy something. So we don't really, we are not really busy searching for problems. They come to us. Yeah, so we don't have the challenge really.
How do you overcome the culture that has probably, the data has not entered into the overall database, and then how do we prevent that where the results constantly just perpetuating, going to the English-dominated culture for recipes, for recommendations, versus the cultures that did not, I mean, recipes were not, that did not have the same access to the current database?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
All right. Last question. Okay, that's going to be the last one. There you go.
Thank you. Great presentation. I will stick to MLOps here. So one of the issues which we face with all these LLMs and deep learning models, if you put in an app which is customer facing, the response time is not, the great. We need something like millisecond type of responses.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you also must be facing, the similar challenges. So are there any guidelines or techniques which you employ there?
Well, I think the way how people interact with the chat is very different than how they interact with regular APIs. So the response time requirements are very different, because you can it can start typing like ChatGPT does. So it is in that sense less challenging, right? But you need to agree with the business what is acceptable for them. You also need to do some testing with actual users to see what is okay in your setting. And it's hard to tell before because we haven't tried that yet. So, but I don't think it's a big issue just because it's a very different way of interacting.
All right, give a big applause for Maria. Thank you so much.